All right, well, we might make a start. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. My name's Russell Cummings, and I'm currently the project leader for the Horticulture the Next Generation program. Horticulture the Next Generation is a leadership and business development training program funded by HAL and Agri-Food Skills Australia. And as part of the program, we are currently running training programs with 50 selected leaders across the industry. We also there's an opportunity for levy payers to participate in online training. If you're interested in that, then go to the website. And we're conducting a series of webinars. This is the second in our series. Our next webinar is going to be on Tuesday, the 20th of November, which is a Tuesday night, at 6 p.m. Victoria, New South Wales time, 5 p.m. Queensland, for those of you like me who get it mixed up. And that'll be delivered by Dr. Darryl Cross, who's one of the Australia's leading business psychologists, and he's going to be talking about how to make money and how to run your business around being positive attitude. So look forward to that. Anyway, tonight we have Fergal Coleman from Symphony 3. Fergal is a colleague of mine and is, I guess, a leader in his field in the area of social media, applying it in business, and I'll hand over to Fergal to introduce himself, tell you a little bit more about Symphony 3, and then we're going to get into social media and how you can actually use it in your business. So over to you, Fergal. Thanks very much.
Great. Thanks, Russell, and thank you to everybody for coming on this afternoon, late in the afternoon, to listen to me. Hopefully over the next half an hour I'll be able to answer some of the questions that you might have with regard to social media. If anyone's got any questions as we go through, feel free to throw them into the chat box. Russell, you just might draw my attention to them as we go. We've got a fair few slides to go through. Hopefully we get through most of them. But as Russell said, the slides will be available and some of the links that we'll talk about as well. Or some of the, I guess, the social media resources that we'll talk about, the links to those will be available. Very small bit about me. Obviously, probably picked up from the accent. I'm from Ireland originally, based in Melbourne for the last 9 years, and we run a company called Symphony 3. Do a lot of social media, web, digital strategy work with some large corporates, some government clients, but also quite a lot of small, medium-sized businesses. Small, medium-sized business that I run myself, so fully understand that social media can be quite daunting. And really one of the big questions you have to ask yourself is, what resources you're going to allocate to this. It can be very powerful, but it's about allocating the right resources to the right social media tools, I think, and that's how you'll get the best benefit out of it. I should also say, if any of you are on Twitter and avid tweeters, feel free to ask your questions via Twitter, and we'll see if we can answer them there, and likewise after the seminar. Russell said the links will be available on the Horticulture website. Yeah, they're also available there, so on this web link. So without further ado, what is social media? I like to bring it right back down to basics. I think that social media has been confused. The notion of social media confuses people, and I think it's probably due to the likes of me making it too complicated. I think they're simply web tools, and I think we need to get away from actually thinking about the tools and thinking about the relationships that these tools allow us to develop with our customers and our stakeholders, and the actual problems that we can solve for our customers and stakeholders using those tools. And I think that's where the power of social media is, applying the tools to the problems that your customers and the needs that your customers have. I like to think that social media is really just the current state of the internet. So every website is going to be social in the near future. Most of them are already. So don't just think of Facebook and Twitter. People go to websites now and they expect them to be interactive, and they expect to be able to have a two-way communication with the people running those websites. So if you don't believe in social media, you don't believe in the internet, I guess is the first thing I'll say. Talk about social media. The first place to start is just to think about people. Okay, so, oops, let me go back there. So, We can equate social media with online word of mouth. Okay, there's a thing called the network effect, which essentially has been around for a long, long time. The network effect simply states that the more people that are on a network, the more powerful it gets. It's been around with the telephone. So when the first telephone was invented, it was no good because Alexander Graham Bell could only talk to himself. So he made a second telephone, and suddenly the network became more effective, and he made a third telephone and a fourth, and so on. Social media works in the same way. So the more people you've got in your network, the more powerful it can become. That's important, okay, because when we think of social media, a lot of people just jump onto Facebook and they don't jump onto Twitter. Now there may be, 6 billion people or whatever it is, 1 billion people on Facebook, but that doesn't mean your customers are on there, and it doesn't mean that if your customers are on there that they necessarily want to interact with you. So what we need to do is find out where our customers are and our stakeholders and what their needs are in those particular channels, and then direct our communications to solve those needs. Another important thing to think about is that not everybody in those channels are the same. So we've got this notion of influencers. Now influencers are the people who are, as you would think, influential. Generally they have a lot of followers, and they have a lot of followers, and people actually take what they say pretty seriously. So we need to find out, and you guys need to find out, who are the influencers in your industry, because they're the people you want listening to you, because they're the ones that will share your content and pass your content on to your customers. So influencers are changing. So a classic example is the fashion industry. It used to be that it was the editor of Vogue and Cosmopolitan that were going to fashion, at the catwalk. Nowadays, there's just as likely to be young teenagers there who are bloggers, but have huge followings on those blogs. So similarly for you guys, your influencers could be food bloggers, for example. And then you just need to, so when you're looking at your customers and you're thinking of what you're going to say to them, you really need to bring it back to them, and it's marketing 101. You need to understand what their needs are. So what are the needs, and how do you solve those needs, and how can social media help you solve those needs? Because unless you're addressing their needs, they're not going to listen to you. There's too much noise out there. There's too much more, many things, and that many things happening on the internet, that if we don't put out good content, people won't listen. They won't come back and listen to us again. Why should we be doing this? Look, I can give you the soft and stuff, but this is the hard stuff. This is the stuff that makes sense. So any of the studies and the research that's been done out there is showing that there's great returns to be got from social media. And remember that it's still in the early days. So if we think back to the e-commerce days, people poo-pooed it in the year 2000 when it was only around 4 or 5 years, and look where it is now 10 years later. So you need to be thinking of the effect that social media is going to have on the horticulture industry over the next 5 to 10 years, not over the next year. And how are you going to position yourself to take advantage of that? Because if you can get some of those improvements in your business that are on this slide, I'm sure you'd be pretty happy. Big business is taking this really very, very seriously. One of the best examples is GE, one of the biggest companies in the world. Just got on their website this afternoon, and they've got about 7 or 8 different social media tools on their website. Funnily enough, today it happens to be a YouTube video on the Tropicana train that brings hundreds of thousands of liters of orange juice up to New York, I think it is. But they're really going very heavy on social. They're allowing people to connect directly with their marketing and operations people via Twitter. So this is not just a plaything for for startup businesses, for techies. Big business is taking this seriously. In terms of thinking about how you can use social media, as I said, I think it's about relationships, and it's about your relationships with your stakeholders and primarily your customers. And I think what we need to think about is, would the business be more effective if we were better at listening, talking, supporting, and collaborating our customers with our customers? And I'm pretty sure we'd all say yes. And social media really just allows us to do those 4 things a lot more effectively. So if we take listening first, it's been said for whatever it is, over 2,000 years. We've 2 ears and 1 mouth, so so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. And I think the same goes for social media. So if you're unsure about it and you want to get started, you don't have to be posting things. You can get on there and you can simply start listening. And I can tell you that listening, I do it all the time. I did it today for this webinar. It's a great way to find out what's happening in my industry, in industries where I'm going to speak. It's great for personal development. All the information is online. If you know how to collate and where to listen, you can be one of the most informed people in your industry. So just to give you an example, last night I posted on LinkedIn, which is a professional social network that some of you may be using. Does anyone have a good example of social media being used in the agriculture and horticulture industry? And I've already had 12 answers back with links to case studies and examples of people in the horticulture industry. From America, from a guy I know in Ireland, a couple from Australia telling me about how other businesses in your industry are using social media. I didn't have to go and research that myself. I just had to put a question into LinkedIn and I could go and have a cup of coffee and wait for the answers to roll in. You can do the same on pretty much any topic on the web. You can do it via LinkedIn, or you can do it on something like Twitter. So some of you may be confused about the notion of hashtags. Hashtags are really a way of searching particularly on Twitter. So I put in the hashtag horticulture earlier on today, and it returned hundreds of tweets from people that are talking about horticulture. I do it all the time for work that we do, so I've got a hashtag for the National Broadband Network, NBN. Essentially, all my research comes into my Twitter feed. It's done for me, so I can know in real time what's going on. Also very useful, of course, for things like weather updates, which can impact your industry, obviously, quite significantly. There are many tools out there, apart from just going to the actual tools that let you listen. We use a tool called Spread Social. I'm looking at it in my office here at the moment. We have it on a TV screen, and it's bringing in real time searches. It's telling us if people are talking to us in real time on any social media channel, and it's basically collecting information so that we can respond to customers and queries very, very quickly. General Electric use it, so I gave the example of General Electric earlier on. I came across their site a while ago, a couple of months ago. Thought it was a great site, so I said I'd tweet it out. The most social multinational or corporate website, any better than General Electric, and I put it out on Twitter for general consumption. Within 20 minutes, General Electric had picked up on it and sent me back that tweet saying thanks for the shout out. So if you're going to get on board, you've got to practice what you preach. You can't just be talking, you've also got to listen to your customers, and you have to have the tools that they're ready to answer them within a decent time frame, I guess. So the first question I think out of today is, can you listen more effectively using social media? The answer is yes, but you need to think about how you can best do that. Second thing is talking. So how do you talk and how do you effectively talk on social media, because there's a lot of noise out there. We use a really simple rule of thumb. I learned from James Atkins, who's a colleague of Russell's and mine, and he says if your content does 3 things, you're probably on the right track. Number 1, it should be digestible. So digestible means it's easy to consume, which is why short, bullet pointed blogs work very well. Video works really, really well. Infographics, so graphical representations work really, really well because people can consume them quite easily. The second thing you need to do is you need to solve a problem for the person who's going to read your blog or look at your post or whatever it is that you send out there. Now, it doesn't have to solve, the problem of world peace. It can scratch an itch, I guess, to put it another way. But it has to be, the person has to read it and go away going, that was valuable information for me. That helped me to do something. Otherwise, they won't come back. And then the final thing is you should be talking about your area of expertise. So don't tell people, whether you won at the races or what you had for breakfast, because generally we're not interested unless you're a celebrity. And even then, I'm not particularly interested. So that's a rule of thumb when you're putting content up on the web. If you can be digestible, if your content's digestible, if it solves a problem and it's in line with your expertise, you won't go far. You won't go far wrong. And then, of course, you have to decide, which gets back to the people issue, where you're going to post that content. And that comes about knowing where your customers are, where are they hanging out. So for us, look, we use Facebook purely for recruitment for some of the young employees that we have to find young employees. But LinkedIn is a far more valuable tool for us in terms of generating business. So we spend more of our time there. Twitter is a valuable tool for us. So you need to decide which tools your customers are using and direct your resources there. Some examples of good content. Australian Bananas, I think they do a really good job with their social media. As you can see, they've recently launched a new campaign with YouTube videos and obviously leverage Facebook quite strongly. They've got, as you can see, 57,000 followers as of today. So that's a nice little audience to be able to send out messages to. But you don't have to be a large organization. So this is one of the examples I got from LinkedIn today from one of my Irish friends. And this is a farm in rural Ireland. And they've started promoting themselves to differentiate themselves from other farms and promoting their produce via YouTube. It's cheap, it's effective, and there's no reason why you can't do it. So the smallest business can do YouTube videos. You can buy a camera for $100. You can upload it free to YouTube, and people don't expect Hollywood movies. We've talked about infographics. So this is an infographic that we created for our business on social media, and you could say it almost went viral. So it was picked up by universities in the UK, and the lady showing it to her students over there. It's won us. We put it out, I think, about a month and a half ago. It's won us 3 good bits of business already, and we've used it with our clients, and it's generated good awareness of us, certainly in the Melbourne market. In terms of the farming industry, here's a really good example. The link is there of a girl, a young farm girl who talks about the benefits of farming and living on a farm. She's got 16,000 followers. What she does really well, can't think of her name off the top of my head, is she takes really visual photographs of what happens on the farm. And people share it, people look at it, people read it, and people engage with her. So visually, most of you guys will have great visuals to share with customers. Townies like myself who would probably be interested in it. So, second question for you to take away is how can I present content to my stakeholders that delivers value? Content is king on the web, and content is king in social media. So I'd be looking at visual, digestible content that's in line, obviously, with your expertise. Third aspect of social media that we can do is support people. So you can support your customers very easily using this medium. It could be even your employees. This is one I pulled off some horticulture. I think it was the horticulture industry website. Today, Harold Adam training walnut trees. I don't think he had that many hits, but I think it's a good example if you want to train people how to prune trees and you've got, let's say you've got migrant workers that come in to help you do it. Why not record it? It can be part of their induction. It can help them. You may have to still do it physically and in person, but video can be a great way for people to refresh their knowledge. So when I say and talk about supporting, you can support your customers, but you can also support your own employees and workers or people, your industry peers. It's low cost. It allows people to help themselves. Often it allows for quick resolution, and it's reusable. So you can reuse the content over and over again. The software industry obviously uses Twitter pretty effectively to support people with updates. So for instance, the company that hosts my website, if there's any downtime, they'll post out Twitter alerts to keep a status update going for all their customers and keep us informed. So you need to think about how social media can support your customers and support your internal staff as well. Final thing is collaboration. So social media is all about collaboration, but as you get more sophisticated and you get more used to listening and talking and supporting, and I guess you generate more loyalty with your customers in these channels, you can actually engage them to help you deliver a better service. And this is one example of how it can be done. So this is John Deere. They were asking people how they could improve their products. So people could put in ideas, as you can see, as to what they'd like to see in the products. They could comment on those ideas, and other people could come in and vote on the best ideas. And John Deere can then take that information and feed it back to their product design team or their product development team. Again, this uses a cheap social media tool. We've used it with some local governments recently for community engagement purposes. So think about how you can collaborate more effectively with customers and also how you can collaborate internally. So things like wikis, tools like Yammer allow you to share information across teams that might be, in different countries or in different states. It can be done in real time. So we use these tools. We use a tool called Yammer. We've got an office here in Melbourne. A lot of us work from home from time to time, and we've also got a team in India. And we use these tools to collaborate on projects in real time. We use things like Skype and Google Hangouts as well. I think importantly, a lot of the research is saying that a lot of the value creation from social technologies lies in improving communication and collaboration within and across enterprises, and I think within and across industries as well. So you guys as a group in the horticulture industry can use these tools to collaborate a lot more effectively. I think the last statement is it's really important. It will require a steep organizational learning curve. Changes in processes, organization, mindsets, and behaviors will be needed. I've been working in the internet industry for 15 years and in social media probably for the last 3 as it's become ubiquitous. The biggest issue with organizations, no matter what size, generally tends to be trying to get the manager on board with social media to change his culture, to open up, to embrace the openness of social media. And I think that will take time. So, I don't think the world's going to change in the next 12 months, but I think we will see massive changes in how organizations communicate with customers and internally over the next 10 years. So there are the 4 things I wanted to get across in a pretty short space of time. So I guess if you go away today, and we certainly have some time for questions, think about how you can listen better, how you can talk to your customers more effectively, whether you can support customers more effectively, and how you can collaborate with people using these tools. So that's it, Russell. I think I did it within the time frame. I don't know if you want to. Yeah. I don't know if you want to open it up for some questions.
when I saw all your slides, I didn't think you were going to pull it off. Well done.
From that part of the world that people, once they start talking, they can't stop us.
So thanks very much, Fergal. If anybody has any questions, you might either put your hand up or type in question please or something into the question area, and I can unmute your microphone and you might be able to ask Fergal definitely. Polly, if I unmute yours, will you be able to talk? That's fine. So, yeah. That's it.
Okay,
Polly,
hi guys, how are you? Yeah, can you hear me?
Great. Yes,
Yeah, hi Polly.
Hello. Thanks, Fergal, that was good. We already have, we don't really use the depth of social media you were talking about there. We use more Facebook, I guess, for, we're a corporation and we use it more for informing our followers and things. And I just wanted to find out really, we've got a fair few, but find out what your recommendations are for getting more followers and more people who can pass our comments on and things and just get more out of our page really. Yeah,
so what do you, what do they follow you for?
Information, so we post informative comments such as, you know, now's time to top up your mulch and things like that.
Yeah, look, I'd have to obviously have a look at the page itself, but I think, as I said earlier on, that and I can't claim it to be my own, that Venn diagram of digestibility, expertise, and solving a problem is something we always go to. So, you know, I'd be trying to make your content as visual as possible. Yeah. So that social media guide that we did, we put it up, and we don't have that many Facebook followers, but that got shared. It got far more people looking at it and sharing it than the content we usually put up there. Okay. We find that our videos, you know, videos get far more interest as well. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, maybe you need to think of digestibility, tone of how you put things up there can make it. Tone of voice can make a big difference. You know, asking questions, actually asking people to respond rather than kind of just stating something. Yeah, sure. Can make a difference. Yeah. Yeah. You know, there's a lot going on with Facebook at the moment with their new system, their EdgeRank system, where posts aren't getting into as many feeds as they used to. So you probably, I don't know whether you've noticed, unless you're doing Facebook advertising, you know, they're starting to promote advertised posts far more than, I guess, generic organic content. Sure. Okay. Thank you for that.
All right.
No problem.
Thanks, Polly. Fergal, we've got a question from Nikki. I'll unmute your microphone, Nikki. You might ask your question. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi. I just wanted to find out, I'm very interested in implementing QR codes. Is that been embraced well by the Australian consumer, or is it still a relatively new, you know, is
phenomenon.
It new? Yeah.
Look, there was some reports. The Economist released a report earlier on in the year saying that you know, finally QR codes had come of age around the world. My view, we use QR codes quite extensively with clients, but I think it depends on how you use them. Which is, so you see a lot of people putting them on trucks, for example. That's a bit of a silly thing. We're not supposed to use our mobile phones when we're driving. But we've used them with a client who's put them on, you know, instruction manuals on their product.
Okay.
Where people can, you know, actually installation guides. Have a look at how Tesco's have used them. They've used them in South Korea. So I think my view on QR codes are, look, they're being used. I don't think it'll change your business, but I think what it does do is it's the first kind of leap in terms of bridging that gap between the online and the offline worlds. So you're going to see augmented reality coming to the fore in the near future. You know, there's talk of Google releasing kind of augmented reality glasses and things like that, and simply what that's doing is kind of combining that offline and online world. So by all means, QR codes very easy to implement. they've got to solve a problem for the person who's going to scan the QR code. So if you're going to bring them somewhere, don't just bring them to a static website. Bring them to interactive content, for example. There's nothing more disappointing.
Yeah, there's a guy in the UK who's using them to sell seafood soup through the supermarkets, and it's a range of seafood soups, and he has them linked to videos, and they're very popular, like videos on how you use these soups and how they're made and all that sort of stuff, and he changes them very, very regularly. Polly's made a comment here to use QR codes to direct people to demonstration videos, and that seems to work well.
Okay.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, we've used them recently. We've recently used them on with a golf course, where we got the golf pro to shoot a video on how to play the hole, and then we put the QR code on the tee off, so people could scan and get a YouTube video of how to play the hole.
Wouldn't help me at all. Look, another question here from Lodi, so right. I'll unmute you, Lodi. You want to ask a question, Lodi?
Hello.
Hi, mate.
Thanks, Fergal, for that interesting presentation. And yeah, it is nice that you put the QR code there where you scanned it, had a look at that. I guess I was trying to find out, how does one manage the concept of sharing information with people, which is also likely to be your competitors, and how do you manage that in a social media world as far as maintaining your SEA is concerned?
Fergal, you might just tell people what an SEA is, mate. Just tell people what an SEA is.
So your SEA is your sustainable competitive advantage. I guess it's what makes you win over your competitors. So what's your point of difference? Look, I can answer that question, Lodi, in terms of how we use. We make our framework. So on the last slide, actually, that I didn't show you, has our social media framework on there. That's our IP that we've developed. We give that away. So look, we know that's pretty successful, but we're happy to put that out into the general population, because we don't think most people will be able to implement it anyway. We give them enough information to think they can go and do it themselves, but they don't really. So I'm happy to put a lot of our content out there that I don't think is, but there's certain things that I'd keep in reserve. But I think it very much comes down to your culture. Some people will give nothing away. If people want to find out what you're doing, they'll be able to find out what you do, is my view. It's very little out there that's new IP.
So basically you think about that before you start down this track and decide, oh, well, I'm happy to share this stuff, but these things I want to keep to myself, and make sure that people in your organisation sort of understand what you're trying to do, because these things get out, and there's been plenty of instances of people sharing information maybe they shouldn't have done.
Yes, absolutely, and it's a good point, because I was going to show you that social media guide, that infographic, in a bit more detail. Let me see if I can bring it up here. But we actually use that internally, and the first point of that is telling people how to act. And we have a list of do's things that people can do within our organisation in terms of sharing content. Things like be transparent, be timely, be professional, add value when you post. But we also have a list of don'ts, and they read as follows. Don't post when angry, tired, or inebriated. The second one is don't share company secrets. Yes, that's right. Don't share company secrets. Don't post content that is disrespectful of anyone, and don't be dishonest. And we think that covers it. Now, some of the corporate customers that we have got much bigger, and we help them develop much broader social media policies, that tell people what they can and can't use. But I actually think a lot of it comes down to education, social media education as well. So you made a good point about sharing secrets. There was a good example of a guy at Microsoft a few years ago who shared a minor secret, something Microsoft were developing, but people were able to piece together what the product was, because based on what other people had put out in the public domain as well. So the guy hadn't, he didn't think that, well, they've got this piece of information, they can link it with that tweet and put the piece together. But I actually think it comes down to education. So that guideline, I've had all my guys read it and agree that they understand what it's about.
I guess I sort of see that, that's, from a lot of people I speak to, seems to be the biggest roadblock to them getting involved in this, because they don't really understand what they should talk about versus maybe what they shouldn't talk about, and try and understand who's listening, and who you need to think about while you're talking or writing or blogging or whatever, and trying to understand who you're trying to deliver the message to and why and so on. So.
Yeah. Oh, look, I mean, what we do, I don't know how big your organisation is, but one of the first things I do in workshops is work through all the risks. And generally, in a group of senior managers, you'll have certainly half the room are still reasonably sceptical. And we'll actually go through the risks, and one of the risks is obviously sharing company secrets. And then we'll list through them and say, well, how do we mitigate these risks? And generally, a lot of it can be covered by probably three things that come to mind: training, proper training, good standards, guidelines and policies, and the third one is records management is another one that crops up a bit for certainly for our government clients.
Okay, well, thanks very much for that overview anyway.
Thanks, Lottie.
Appreciate that.